Afternoon all. I thought I'd play one or two games today, so let's see. I'll play mainline. No, I won't. King's Gambit, Vienna, maybe Vienna. So yeah, maybe Bishop B5 here because E5 I want to try and undermine. Maybe Knight D5 and B4 as well, like Knight D5 here for B4. Try and pick up that dark square bishop. And maybe also C3 could be handy. Mind you, I don't know, C3 here, Knight E4 now. Don't really want to play D4. B4, that might be playable. B4, just to nick that dark square bishop with knight takes B6. Okay. So bishop B6. Right, so just take the dark square bishop to be able to castle king side up and play D3 next. Just try and castle without that bishop going down the diagonal. Also here maybe taking first on E5, but then there's knight E5. And this pawn's loose, so I don't know, C3 or taking on C6. Maybe I'll take on C6. Take on E5 to fix E5, but then D4's a bit vulnerable, so maybe just castle. So hopefully there's pressure on E5, so that will discourage D5. If takes bishop F4, then D5 E5. Queen E1 to G3. It's going to be handy, or Queen E1 to H4. Bit windy outside today. Okay, so knight D7. Aha. Alright, so F takes or F5, maybe F5. I'll go with F5, even though it's asking for D5 at some point. Maybe if takes, maybe G takes. Okay, so D4 vulnerable. Maybe I'll take takes to get the G file. Undouble. So I've got the G file. About double pawns, but this rook's vulnerable at the moment. So maybe let's get the king out of here. So it looks pleasant enough. Okay, if I just play rook G1. Right, so how do I get my pieces out here? Bishop E3, I think, for a start. Queen's holding on to B4. Then some unsubtle stuff like Queen H4, Rook G3. Should I play B5 first, play C4. B5 might have something going for it here. Play C4, just keep the knight out. If I play C4, then I'll stop C4 as a positional pawn sack, which he's just played. Ouch. Okay. So if I take, it's unpleasant, I guess, the pressure. Knight C5, I don't really want to be undermined that quickly. So I'll go with maybe just Queen H4 here. There's no concrete threats. Knight C5 has got concrete threats. Would I just take? I don't know. Knight C5, Rook G3, there's Knight D3. Okay, so that's trouble. I'll just go for the doubling and see what happens. Maybe there's Bishop H6 or something. Bishop H6 there actually. There's Knight F2. There's Rook H3 first, protecting F2. Actually, Rook H3 looks like a good move. Then bishop h6, that looks pretty interesting. So rook h3 here. Why not? Now bishop h6 takes as rook h7. So rook g6 first. Sorry, rook g1 to g6 first. So am I threatening? Am I threatening rook g7, rook g7, queen h6, rook h7, or just bishop h6 takes, queen h6, rook h7? But then what? So I think first rook g6. Mind you, a2's dropping, my king's getting a bit vulnerable. Or is it? There isn't a queen sack. Takes, check. Rook h7, that's nonsense. What about if I take here, queen c5, that's nonsense. It's not doing anything. Bishop g5, I'm not sure that's doing anything. Actually it takes. Rook h7, there's queen g6. But then rook g7. So I think I'm going to go for rook g6 and allow check. It looks dangerous a little bit, but if I can get in bishop h6, I think that'll be the end of the game here. I can get my king to f3 and just play bishop h6. Right, so bishop h6 here looks pretty dangerous, and also there's going to be discovered attacks, unless I'm losing my queen or something. There'll be discovered attack to defend the king here. Bishop d2 and queen h8 mate. If it takes rook h6, there's a treble battery, so that looks pretty good. If I take here, isn't there actually bishop g7 and rook h8? If I just do queen takes e1, rook takes, there's bishop takes g7, double check, king g8, and then rook h8. That looks pretty good. Aha. So he's left the rook and pre here. I can just take the rook. Or I can just take on h6. There's decisions, pleasant ones, but I'll just take the rook. That leaves h6 to be taken next move. He's resigned here. Okay, so that was a successful Vienna there with bishop b5. The idea of knight d5 actually is quite useful for b4, supporting b4. Getting rid of the dark squared bishop to be able to castle. Getting rid of c6 to keep pressure on e5 and not lose b4 so quickly. Using g takes for the g file. Now I wasn't really sure how the attack would evolve here. I wasn't really sure of the concrete. I wanted to play c4, but he played c4 just to seal the knight because it wouldn't have squares. But now there's concrete threats here with rook h3. So finally I've noticed something concrete. But bishop h6 didn't seem to work here. The idea of getting a rook to g6 first for preparing that bishop h6, and now it's a very nice move, I think, queen e1. If rook e1, then there was bishop g7 double check, king g8, and then rook h8 mates. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it. Comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.